Should I start?
Recording in progress.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, Samuel.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Morning, Roberto. Colleagues, partners, honored guests, and friends of the Caribbean Postal Union. Good morning and welcome. On behalf of the Caribbean Postal Union, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this special masterclass organized in collaboration with Miami Business Technological University, MBTU. Today's session is not simply another online lecture. It is an investment in the future of our postal sector and in each of you personally. For more than a century, postal services across the Caribbean have connected people, businesses, government, and communities. We have delivered letters, parcels, pensions, medicines, and hope, sometimes across oceans, sometimes across mountains, and often under very challenging circumstances. Our postal operators have always been symbols of trust, reliability, and public service. However, the world around us is changing faster than any other moment in our history. E-commerce is growing. Our customers expect real-time tracking. Competition is increasing from public carriers and digital platforms. Data now moves quicker than goods. And today, a new technological force is shaking every industry. That is artificial intelligence, which is no longer a concept of the future. The question is no longer whether AI will affect the postal service. It already is. The question is, how prepared are we to use it to our advantage? Personally, I think AI will bring practical tools that can help us improve delivery times, strengthen traceability, enhance quality management, and support evidence-based decision-making in our organization. But technology alone is not enough. What truly matters is knowledge, understanding how to apply these tools responsibly, strategically, and in a way that supports our mission of public service. Artificial intelligence will not replace the postal sector. I believe it will strengthen this, it will modernize it, and help ensure that our designated operators remain relevant, competitive, and trusted public institutions. Today, we are not just learning about technology, we are preparing the Caribbean postal sector for the future. So, thank you for joining us, and I now warmly welcome Dr. Edgar Barroso, an internationally recognized specialist in artificial intelligence, a researcher and professor. He joins us not just to explain AI, but to help us think differently, to reflect on postal services, to reflect on how postal services can evolve while preserving our essential values of accessibility, inclusion, and trust. I especially encourage you to participate actively. Bring your questions. Next voice you hear will be Dr. Edgar Barroso. Thank you.
Gentlemen, good morning. And a special welcome to the student of the Postal Logistic Diploma. On behalf of Miami Business Technological University, welcome to this masterclass. Dr. Daniela Cabanilla is currently on medical leave and could not join us today, but she asked me to extend her warm welcome and sincere thanks. special Dr. Samuel Brackman and Dr. Edgar Barroso for their trust in MBTU. We are honored to have participants from the UPU, CPU members, PUAS, country and official, the UPU Consultative Committee, private postal operator, and private sector partners. Welcome to all. Without further ado, I am pleased to give the floor to Dr. Edgar Barroso to begin the masterclass. Dr. Barroso, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you very much, Samuel, for that amazing introduction. But I have to say that you stole my first slide. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see a presentation. Yes, I agree with Sam. Artificial intelligence is the most transformational technology of our time. And I'm old enough to know that, for example, I was here when the internet came. I got into the internet when I was 15 years old for the first time in my life. And I remember that the first thing I did is just to, look for music or for chords to play guitar. And then I had no idea that the internet would be what is today. Same thing is happening with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to be everywhere. It's not, as Samuel was saying, it's not a matter of choosing. Actually, we're already using it all the time. Whenever you go to Google, whenever you go to e-commerce platform, whenever you're using Google Maps, whenever you're using all of these apps that are part of our lives, we're using artificial intelligence in a way. Now, again, Samuel, as I was saying, you stole my two first slides. So this is not for the future. We're not talking about some theoretical science fiction, something that is going to happen in many, many years. It's something that it's already available. And I always tease my students saying, AI is not just another tool. This is something really important to understand because in the past, tools were not building themselves. And this is the first time in the history of our planet where we create a technology that is improving itself. It's learning from everything that it's getting from us, from the data, from everything that we have created, and that has some controversial parts. But it's already programming itself in at least part of it. So for me, AI is not just one tool, or it's not just one more tool. It's actually an ecosystem. We have to think of AI not as an app, but an ecosystem that is everywhere. It's in your computers, it's in your servers, it's in all the digital space. We can have an ecosystem of AIs. And what I thought is to say, look, I'm not getting into the numbers, but just to give you an idea how much money is going to be spent in AI. The investment of AI from 1 year to the next is more than 44% from last year. So the world is spending and investing in this technology an immense amount of money and resources because we think, or the world thinks, that this technology can improve our productivity and can take us to a different level of performance, and of course, to get to the future where we want to be. Now, of course, I'm being positive. Of course, there are some challenges and risks, and we will get them a little bit further into the presentation. So these numbers, I'm not getting into detail because I don't have the time. I only have some 35 minutes. But the message of these numbers is AI is here to stay. It has the resources. It has the investment will of the market. So this will be more and more in our lives, and that's going to change how we see our lives and technology. So we have to get used to live in a world where these systems are going to shape our life, and of course the postal sector will be affected, or even I would agree with Samuel, it's going to improve the system of the postal sectors. Now, today I want to do three things. show you more or less very briefly how AI has evolved in the last 2 years. I'm not going to 1956, where where it was the first time the term artificial intelligence was mentioned in the Dartmouth conference. But it's just amazing how fast this technology is growing. The second one is that I will try to show you what this evolution means for the postal services specifically. And lastly, as Samuel also said, yes, the technology is here, but we need to have ethical responsibility. This is absolutely key because with power comes responsibility. So let's get into it. So in the last 2 years, we have moved from large language models, which basically means that machines can now understand language. It can speak in any language. Well, it's not really speaking because what they are doing is just calculating a lot of numbers. It is the first technology, and if you think about it, it's quite amazing that you can speak to this thing and it can answer you in any or mostly in any language. Think of it like you have never talked to something that was not human until these systems came. So it's really interesting that the machines now operate in our language, even though they are doing a translation into numbers. So these models can answer questions on virtually any topic. If you go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever model you use, you can get a reasonable answer for any topic that you put in. It can write, it can summarize, it can translate in most of the languages in the planet, even Sanskrit and Latin and other languages. It can generate code, and I'm sure that you're following the news of what is going on with the code generation. Yeah, most companies are now generating code with vibe coding. And at first, there was a lot of memes about vibe coding, like, oh, it's bad code, and we have to then revise it and improve it and so on. But one thing that is very important with this technology is that we cannot judge the technology in a moment in time, because these technologies are improving every single minute. So you can see that they were making mistakes. Even if you remember, for example, when you started with ChatGPT, the first version, say ChatGPT or the GPT 3.5, it would hallucinate a lot of things. It would invent papers, invent information. But since then, that was not so long ago, since 2020, 5-6 years, now it's improving a lot the amount of hallucinations and errors that these machines are making. That doesn't mean that they are not doing them anymore, but it means that it has been reducing these kind of errors, for example. It can analyze a huge amount of data, something that we can't do at all at a human level, and can also explain complex concepts. It can follow instructions and adopt different roles as well. And I'm sure that you're familiar with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Llama. Now, I'm not getting into prompt engineering because I don't have the time. But I want to show you more or less, because of time constraints, what I did is that I get my answers here, my questions, sorry. And then here you can see, for example, an example of this question. So, for example, if I go, oh, let me see, this is not what I wanted to show you. Let me see. This. Oh, sorry, this is a personal message. So anyway, if you go to ChatGPT or any other language or a model, sorry, you can write any prompt, right? You can write a prompt that is very simple. This is the question that I had. It's right here. What are the main challenges facing Caribbean postal services regarding terminal use and cost recovery? And this is the answer that you get with a model called Mistral. And Mistral gives you a very decent answer. But it's it gives you the source, which is great, because before models didn't give you the source. It would just go and look into their database or the training database, and then try to get into these kind of answers. But what I wanted to show you is if you improve the questions, and the result is good, but it has no sources most of the time, especially if you're using a free version of these models. It's not real data, but approximations without evidence. It has no memory. Every time you go, even to ChatGPT, now they have some memory because we have moved into agentic AI or to agents. But before this, when we were starting with these models, they had no memory. We had to start from zero every time. You have to put information again. You have to put all of these documents and then try to make a session. But once the session was gone, then the memory was gone. They were looking into the training data, but if the information you wanted to have was not in the training data, then it will either hallucinate or just made up some answer. And of course, the problem with the first versions of these models were that it has a hallucination risk. But the problem was that these models were confident about their hallucinations. So they will sound very convincing, even though they were doing it in a way that was plainly wrong. So what we want to do now is how to get from brainstorming, which is great. These answers are useful. But if you get into prompt engineering, which is the art or the technique to communicate better with these machines, then you can get better responses. For example, this is what I would call creativo. I know that it's in Spanish, but it's pretty close to English. So if you use these kind of details where you have context, I work at the Caribbean Postal Services. If you give it a role like senior policy research analyst, international postal economics, and if you give the models a little bit more information with this, I will get into this prompt. Then this is the same model but different result. You get a much more detailed result with an executive summary, with evidence, terminal dues and cost coverages, with all the resources and so on. And you can get a much more detail with tables and everything if you prompt in a better way. So the way you talk to these models is very, very relevant to get better and better results. So this is very basic. I know that most of you have tried these models. But I just want to share with you this very simple, very simple idea. These very sophisticated technologies sometimes are scary, right? Because you think that you have to code or you have to know Python or JavaScript or all these codes. But I think one of the most important lessons we have learned in this particular technology is that now language or text is code. So if you can think and you can speak, you can use AI. You don't have to have a degree in computer science or be a specialist in this. Of course, it helps that if you code, that's great because you have trained your brain to have very structured way of thinking. But I think this is a revolution because now this technology is more about imagination. It's more about what kind of idea can you describe? What kind of future do you want to build and how well you can describe it? So just that you take, you're going to take two things from this talk. This is the first one. So the first one is that it's very, very, very simple to prompt better using this framework that I call Creativo. So whenever you want to have better results, more detailed results with better sources and references, you can think of a prompt like code. So instead of building code blocks, you're building text blocks. So the first block should be about the background, the why, what is going on, give me the context of what you're doing. The second is the role, what expertise to adopt. So these models function better if you actually give them direction of what kind of role or where are they located into the vectoral space. Give them an example. For example, what good output looks like. If you're trying to write a report, show him or it, show it. How do you want to do it? You want it. This is the end result. I want something like this, or I want something like this, but it's even better in terms of structure or tone in the text. Look to who is your audience. Like if you're preparing a report for UPU or CPU or whomever you are preparing something, take that into account and tell it to the model. Task, then you specify the action. Then you say something with the verb saying, please write a report or do this or that. But within that, if you go to the instructions to a second level, you put the rules, the constraints, and the format. For example, you could say, write a report, but please make this report not as an academic paper, but as an informational report, or focus more on data versus long paragraphs, or make it in Markdown, or make it in Google Drive, or make it in a document, and so on. You can make the formats now, and these models can actually create the formats. This is pretty new. Also, what kind of tone do you want to have? Is it too formal? Is it too diplomatic? Is it too technical? And this is the most important one, and something that most people forget, which is the objective. If you say only, oh, I want to please write a report, the model doesn't have the context and every other thing that we have seen right now. But it's very important that we give the last objective. The objective is that the board understands how we are doing in terms of packages. The objective is that with this report, we can move forward to the next project. So it's the what success look like. And this is very important. So for example, this is the prompt that I use to have the better result. So for example, I give them context saying, oh, look, I work at the Caribbean Postal Service classified as group 3 under the UPU terminal due system, inbound volumes, blah, 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 blah. You're a senior policy research analyst, international postal economics. The delegation briefing, it's an executive summary with evidence, with comparative analysis, recommendations, and so on. So this, I hope that you get the Creativo framework for your prompts, and you will see that you will get much better results. Now, so it's the same question, but it's a much more useful output. So the better you prompt these models, the better results you will get. But I'm talking about models. Have you noticed that? Models are very, very, very much active, but in a different form, and I will get into that. So models basically get their information from their training data, and some of them have tools to go and look into the internet. But what if we could connect it to real current sources? For example, the second level, once what we started to put with the, then we realized, oh, but I need data that is very specific so that I avoid, to the most part, hallucinations. And I say this because these models actually are probabilistic. So sometimes we will get it wrong, but it's not that it's necessarily wrong, but it's just that the probability, you get a percentage of errors that is perfectly fine with this approach of probabilistic next token, which is more or less the way these models work. I'm oversimplifying, but we can get into this at the end if you want. So the second part is we realized that we needed techniques so that we have specific data sources. So the first part, between 2023 and 2024, we had a lot of retrieval augmented generation. This is Nothing, but that the model is not limited anymore just for the training data. Actually, you can give the papers that you want to have, and then with those papers, the model will go and search into these kind of reports or papers. And the advantages of these models is that they can search millions of academic papers, for example, extract methodology, findings, statistics, and so on, and cite every claim with a verifiable reference. So it is very interesting how these models now, they don't necessarily go into their training data, but you can define the data that you want the model to analyze. And I'm sure that you are familiar with, for example, Notebook LM, but I first want to show you, let me show you SciSpace. SciSpace, for example, is a website where it has a huge rack. Now they're called knowledge databases, but I will get into that when I get to agents. And with these, you can search within a certain space. So if you put a question, you will get an answer, but as opposed different than just a text from a model. It will go and search from a specific.
Sorry, doctor, we can't hear you. Oh,
Really?
yeah, no, okay, you're back.
Sorry about that. So anyway, so what this model is doing is going into and look for a lot of information about these questions that I did. So with this very simple question, I am getting all of these papers, and you can see that most of them are from UPU, decent sources. So these models are optimized to look into papers and academic research. And you can say, oh, that's great, but maybe I don't have the time to read, I don't know, 1,000 papers, right? So then this is where you use other tools, like for example, Notebook LM. Notebook LM, some of you, of course, are familiar with this, but this is a very nice way of creating your own rack, meaning you have a limited corpus of data, and this will prevent the models to hallucinate, at least for the most part. Again, I can't say 100%, but I would say very close to 100%. And it has very nice tools here. You can, for example, make a podcast about all of these papers. So for example, if I play this, let me see if you hear it. Let's see. Well, let me walk you through it. So this is a great tool to explore a lot of documents. So for example, you can have
That metal
there you go.
box is actually the front line of a massive global crisis.
Yeah, it's not just about getting a late birthday card anymore.
No, not at all. We are talking about a total collision of advanced physics algorithms.
So you can have all of these papers. You can create podcasts. For example, I use it all the time for my students to understand a lot of what the class is going to be about. I'll create a podcast with this. You can create mind maps. You can create a lot of tools using Notebook LM. So whenever you have a very complex problem, you can go to SciSpace or to Elicit or any other website that is specialized in literature. You can download the PDFs from these websites completely legally, and then you can upload these papers into this notebook so that you can read and learn from them. So for example, I am asking how must universal services networks, particularly postal system, be reformed and optimized to ensure financial viability, environmental sustainability, and equitable access across diverse geographic and economic landscapes in the digital age. So it will go and look into all of these papers and then go into the rest and give you an answer with codes saying which is the source of each one of them. So it's a really interesting tool that you can explore. And it will give you a very, very good result in terms of hallucinations, for example. So this is the question that I did. I put the papers and I used this notebook to connect them or to understand a lot of documents in the same model. But then in 2024, 2025, we started to do multimodal AI. AI that sees, hears, and connects. So now these are not anymore these models where you can ask a question and then give you an answer. Actually, it can generate video, it can generate audio, it can understand images, charts, scan PDFs, generate audio. Now that we're making music with AI, we can analyze any kind of format like spreadsheets, documents, PDFs, audio, image, everything. So that was a really important part of these things. As you can see, this is the notebook example that I give, where you can synthesize into a 10-minute conversation. So you can go from PDFs to podcast in the same model. So the models can now look into data in a similar way that we humans look into data with all of our senses. Even there's a project, and you can Google it after this class, that it's called the Nose Project from Google, where we are starting to get these systems to actually smell, which is going to be interesting for the future. So far you have AI answers, you can find sources, you can connect documents, but the next step adds something different, which is autonomy. And then we got AI agents. And I'm sure that you're listening a lot about how these AI agents are different from models. These agents come from agency. Actually, they can have autonomy in a way. So these agents now plan. So they are not just one query or one prompt and then one. But you make the query, and then these agents can think about it. They can make a plan like humans do, right? Whenever we have a complex problem, we sit down and say, okay, this is a complex problem, but first step, I will do this. Second step, I will do that. So these agents can plan, can act, and can collaborate. And this is interesting because now they can decompose complex questions into subtasks as humans do. They can do autonomously search, read, and calculate. This is different from models. These are agents that can actually do these things with a thing called tools. So imagine that you have a model, and a model is like a person. And then you give the model a hammer, a tool, or you give the model a car, or you give the model anything that we use for our daily lives. So these agents now can generate reports for hundreds of sources because they can use tools. They are not any longer just models, but they have models and services and tools so that they can do much more detailed research. And one thing that is quite interesting is that they can collaborate. For example, you can have one agent that does the research, and then another agent criticizes this research. And a third agent, you can synthesize this research so that you can have agentic conversations between them to get better results. The same way we do it with humans, right? When we have a meeting and we are brainstorming or we're trying to get into a new idea to collaborate and so on, we talk to each other. We contrast ideas, we give new ideas. And this is how we're trying to build these systems where you can have agents that talk to themselves. Now, I don't know if Jose Anson is in the audience or not, but I want to give a shout out to him because since some years ago, he had a vision to have the unified data platform from UPU. And his vision was we need a platform that is secure, that it's a platform that unified the data from postal services, so that you have kind of what we did with the documents, right? We have a curated database that is in a safe space. Safe, I mean, by cybersecurity standards, where the data lives, and you know that this data was verified by humans. And this is very important, because if the source of the data is wrong or it's not reliable, then the whole system doesn't know what to do, because these systems don't necessarily judge the quality of the data. If you say this is the data, the models or the agents have to assume that these are the data. But if the data is wrong, then they will assume wrong. So with him, we had developed some 3 agents, but specialized particularly in 2 things. And to the 2 IPD score that Jose leads, and the Dubai strategy of the postal services. So what we did, and let me show you very briefly how this looks like. So this is the first chat. I was just doing some comparison between Jamaica and Bahamas, for example. So if you get into this model or into this agent, it will give you a very detailed comparison between Jamaica and Bahamas. But all of this data is extracted in the unified data platform, which is in the AWS cloud. And then all of these data was data that was provided by the UPU or by Jose's department. So you can know that this information is robust, and that the system knows and understands what the experts like Jose and many more have put into this knowledge database. And notice that I said knowledge database. We have moved from RAGs, so retrieval augmented retrieval, which was basically taking information and put it back, to knowledge bases, which means it has data, but it has also reasoning from the data. So you can ask for example, recommendations. What would you give to each countries to improve their IPD? And I'm talking about Jamaica and Bahamas. And it will give you some suggestions. So it has the power to give some reasoning and some inference as well. Now, it can also speak, right? Like these systems can also talk to you. So we have developed also into this unified data platform an agent that can speak to you. And this is important because, many people either are not comfortable writing, or it's just, too complex to have the idea that you really want to have. But it's easier just to speak to these things. And as I mentioned before, these are multimodal models, which means that they can hear you, they can understand you, even though, for example, in my case, I have a thick accent, it still will recognize my voice, I hope. Let me show you.
Hi, I'm the 2IPD agent. What would you like to know about postal development?
Hello, can you tell me how Jamaica, for example, can improve their 2IPD score into the future, let's say 5 years?
Certainly, for the year 2025. Jamaica's overall 2IPD score is 35.4, putting it at Postal Development Level 4. To lift this score over the next 5 years, Jamaica should focus on improving relevance and resilience. Since relevance is only 9.2, while reliability is already quite strong at 69.2. According to the State of the Postal Sector Report, expanding service offerings and strengthening shock resistance are key to making lasting progress. Would you like to explore which new services or network upgrades could boost the relevance score first, or dive deeper into strategies for greater resilience?
So you can see that you can speak to these systems as well. And you can have a conversation with them. I'm in a hotel right now in the middle of Mexico, so my connection is not great. But you can see that you can speak to these models as well. And imagine the possibilities of having these models speaking to people in their own language. And also we have an agent chat where two agents, actually three agents, are talking to each other. I don't think I have the time to show that, but the idea is that you have a 2IPD agent talking to the Dubai strategy, and then you have a third agent that helps these two guys having a dialogue come up with a consensus. So the idea is that these agents can help us find ideas or strategies that we can't look into it because you have to read 100,000 papers, 100,000 variables, 100,000 of data that it's not humanly possible. Now, let me go to the next stage, which is this idea that agents can now plan, can research, can collaborate within them, and of course, they can collaborate with us as well. And the last part of this talk is about how can you put all of this together. So models are super powerful. Now agents have tools and now have the skills, and some of them have memory. But you can create 100,000 agents, but how do you govern them? How do you make this a cohesive, reasonable, and ethical framework so that these agents live under a certain framework so that they can be controlled by humans, basically? So our research at Tec de Monterrey is proposing a framework where you can think of these models into a thinking system. So when you want to scale these kind of models and these kind of agents, we have to move from individual tools to institutional intelligence. So we're pointing into collective intelligence, not as a rhetoric thing, but actually something that we can now do with these tools. From prompts, very simple prompts like Creativo, to architecture. And from a person using AI to an organization running on AI. So all of these things need to be run with transparency, with governance, and at scale. So what we propose is that we say, okay, so every system, every AI system, and again, remember that I started saying AI is not a tool, it's an ecosystem. This is what we mean. So what we are trying to say is if you're using an artificial intelligence framework, you have to look into what is the legacy or the vision, the purpose or the lasting impact of humans. What do we want to achieve? Second, what is the community? What are the people involved? What are the beneficiaries of these systems? What are the institutions and the networks that we need to build to collaborate better? What are the learning and the capabilities, the knowledge, the literature, the expertise that we need humans and agents to work together? How can we make a system that is just absorbing new and new technologies? Everything that I showed in this presentation was done in the last 2 years. This change from models to agents to agentic AI, it took place in the last 2 years. So imagine the next 2 years. And then, of course, these systems need to take into account, and I think this is very particular for the Caribbean, to have the context of the landscape, the external environment, and all of these data that you need to take into account to create an AI system, because you cannot ignore context. And the last one, it's not only about the responses on a chat, but how can we take this information and this intelligence to actually change the real world? How can all of this technology at the end needs to improve the life of a person, and then to 1,000 people, to 100,000, and hopefully to billions of people. So it's not only about, having fun in your computer. It's really about putting together a lot of people and machines working together to improve people's lives. So if you have this the community, the UPU members, the partner countries, everyone in the ecosystem, which is huge, can connect to these systems. And that's why the idea of unifying data, it's so important, like the UDP at UPU. Learning, for example, what are the regulations for each country? What is the research, the institutional knowledge that each country needs to have? What are the AI tools and the data platforms that we need to actually do this? What are the global trends, the market data, the contextual information that is particular to each country? And what is the cost of all of this? What are the proposals, reforms, and new services? So basically, what we are trying to do with this framework is that you can use models for persistent instructions. You can use literature to integrate search across papers. You can synthesize cross-referencing across dimensions. You can create agents with skills within this infrastructure, and you can provide memory, governance, and structure to these agents. So we are building institutions that have memory for the first time in our lives in terms not only of documents, but actually in language. So from today, we saw that we went from prompts to automate skills, which are instructions for systems, to architecture, to have federated AI systems. Systems that can scale, but in an order, in a rational order manner that humans can still understand. And in this way, we can not just create a unified data platform for the entire world, but also for the regions. So you can go into these countries and make these AI systems and ecosystem work together so that everyone can maximize benefit and value. So the idea is that, yes, AI is super powerful, and this is the last idea that I put on the table, but you have to go into ethical and just AI. We can't just use the latest technology because it's interesting or it's cool or whatever. We need to make this technology transparent. We have to show how it works so that we can verify that everyone is doing it in the right way. So disclosure, verify the information so the information is there. You need to have the human judgment all the time so that the research, what AI researches, give you the summary, the information, but at the end, decisions should stay in humans. Privacy, of course, we need to figure out a way that we respect privacy of the people, but at the same time, you use the data to provide better services. And we need to be in the same way these systems are building themselves. We need to make these systems to work for the postal sector, continuously learning, not only from themselves, but from other systems. So the idea that we can do this, for me, it's really exciting because that we can take us, way faster than the traditional way of working. And if we do it right, if we do it ethically, if we want to do it in a way that is reasonable for everyone, then I'm sure that we will make an immense amount of progress in the future. So imagine if you can build these systems. Imagine that you can build these agents that are helping you individually, but they are also helping your department. They are helping the post office in your country. They are helping the whole region in these kind of things. What would you do first? What would you investigate? What decisions in your organization could benefit from better evidence? What becomes possible when your postal services builds its own AI intelligence capability? Imagine these huge systems working for the people of your countries. So this is my gift to you guys. So all of this was generated, this class was generating a wiki while I was talking. I will show you very quickly how that looks like. So basically, this is where, as you saw, where is the class? The class is right here. It has the federated structure that I show you. And within projects, I created the Caribbean wiki. So you can take all of these contents to your home And I asked the system to give you a last message to say goodbye to this class that I will read very quickly. You sit at the intersection of something rare, institutions that reach every citizen, and a moment when the tools to understand and serve those citizens just became radically more accessible. For decades, research, real evidence-based investigation required budgets, academic affiliations, and time most operational institutions simply didn't have. That barrier is gone, not lower, but gone. What you saw today is not a preview of some distant future. Every tool we use is available right now, most of them at no cost. The question is no longer whether AI will reach the postal sector, it's whether you will be the ones shaping how it arrives, or whether you'll be adapting to decisions others made for you. Your postal networks already do what most technology companies only dream of: physical presence in every community, trust built over generations, and infrastructure that reaches where the internet still doesn't. AI doesn't replace any of that, it makes it smarter. The gap between knowing something and proving it used to be months of work. Now it's a well-structured question. You have the questions. You always had the questions. Now you have the tools. Start small. Decision your organization faces this month and run it through the research cycle we walked through today. You'll be surprised, not by AI, but by what you already knew and couldn't yet articulate. This is the beginning. So this is what I prepared for you guys. I hope it was useful. I only had 1 hour. I was complaining with Roberto yesterday that it's a lot for 1 hour. But I want to thank you. It was a real honor. Thank you, Roberto, for the invitation, to Daniela, to Sam for this invitation. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Okay. All right, thanks. To conclude, I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Barroso, for your gift, for sharing your knowledge and insights with us today. Also to MBTU for organizing and partnering with the CPU in this important initiative. Definitely, today's session reminding us that AI is not something to fear. It is practical, something to understand, guide, and apply wisely. Definitely the future of the postal sector will belong to organizations that learn, adapt, and innovate concepts while remaining committed to service. For those online, I encourage each of you, to continue with this conversation within your respective institutions. Share what you learned, ask questions, and explore practical applications in your daily operations to improve your communities and people's lives. Thank you for your participation, and we look forward to working with you on the next steps of this journey. Dr. Barroso, thanks a lot. We definitely will be looking for you in the future for your insights. Definitely, I really appreciate it. It was very practical, and there's a big world there that we could apply these concepts to make the postal sector better. So definitely, thanks again, and have a great, wonderful day.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you very much. It was an honor.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. MBTU. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you very much, everyone.